Hello class, and welcome to our next video lesson. This video lesson you can find in your textbook, well not the video lesson, but the section. It's found in section 1-9, and it's called Multiplying and Dividing Integers. And you can find it on page 44. Right, let's begin. So for our first example, we're going to be taking a look at two problems. Now remember, we're multiplying and dividing integers. First, we're going to look at multiplying. Integers are both positive and negative numbers. So for the first numbers, we're going to look at example 1a. And right here we have -4 times 2. Now this is a lot simpler than adding and subtracting. You're going to multiply regularly, except you got to remember one rule. When you multiply a negative and a positive number together, you get a negative number. And they multiply the same with the numbers. So 4 times 2 is 8. And since one is negative and one is positive, they have different signs, different values, a negative value, a positive value. The answer has a negative value, and that's your answer. Now, if you have two numbers that you're multiplying together and both are negative, they have the same value, and the negative symbols cancel each other out. So when we multiply together like this, we end up with positive, we end up with positive 21. So, key thing to remember, both with multiplying and dividing, if they are different, a negative and a positive, or a positive and a negative, your answer will be negative. If they're both positive, or if they are both negative, your answer will come out to be positive. Let's take a look at some more multiplication examples so we make sure we understand what we're doing. All right, these next examples will have three numbers in them each. So the first one, for example, 2a, we have -5 times 4 times -4. Remember, when they're up against a parenthesis, it means we're supposed to multiply. All right? Over here, for example B, we have -5 times -7 times -10. Let's take care of this one first. So I would break it down so I would just do one step at a time. And because it's multiplication, you can multiply in any order you want. I'm just going to multiply in the order that's written in. So for the first example, we have -5 times 4. That would be -20, parenthesis, -4. It's a -20 because the 5 is negative, the 4 is positive, and 5 times 4 is 20. So we have a -20. Now we say -20 times 4. Well, 4 times 20 is 80. Both numbers are negative, so my answer is positive. All right. For these other numbers over here, we have negative, negative, negative. Now some people say, oh, they're all negative, so our answer is going to be positive. Well, you've got to multiply in order and work each step out. Don't just go and assume something, okay? So let's say -5 times -7. 5 times 7 is 35. And it becomes positive 35 because they're both negative. And we bring down the -10. We're still multiplying, so we'd say 35 times 10. Well, that would be 350. And because one's positive and one is negative, our answer is negative. So we have -350. That's the answer. Okay? Let's take a look at division. Division works the exact same way, but it's good to still take a look at it. So in the first example, we have a negative number divided by a positive number. And over here we have two negative numbers. So in the first example, because one is negative and one is positive, our answer is going to be negative. So I'm going to go ahead and put a negative symbol right here, okay? And we would say 32 divided by 4. Well, what is that? It's 8. Box in our answer, and so our answer is -8. Now, if the 4 had been negative and the 32 had been positive, we still would have gotten -8. because one would have been negative and the other positive. You can switch the negative values around and you still get the same answer. Now, if the 4 had been negative and the 32 had been negative, then this would have been a positive 8. All right, let's look at the next example. So here we have negative 120 divided by negative 12. Well, 120 divided by 12 is 10. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. So we have positive 10 as our answer. Okay. So I want to go over one last thing. Remember, if you have any questions, write them down and be ready to discuss in class. But write down one last thing. It's important that if you noticed up here that this negative number is inside a parenthesis. And a lot of these other numbers, negative numbers, are inside parentheses. It's important that when you are writing this down, that you do not write down a negative number like that. Do not write down negative 4 times negative 5 like this. The reason for this is that when you have a negative number up front, you're not as likely to get this mistaken for something else. But over here, I could miss the multiplication symbol, and I could think that this is negative 4 minus 5. But when I put parentheses around it, it brings my attention to the fact that this is a negative 5. If you want, you can put parentheses around the front number. It's not needed, but if you would like that extra help to make sure that you notice that that's a negative number, it's a good idea to do this. All right. Remember, write down any questions you have and be ready to discuss in class. See y'all then.